Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So today we're going to continue the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and I got a very exciting episode for you guys this Sunday because over the weekend Robert updated some of the Nintendo 64 cores on the MiSTer Discord, giving us better audio, improvements to games, as well as some fixes for the MiSTer Pis out there that have been having some RAM issues on some of the games. I was waiting to talk about that until a fix was in, and it is here and in testing, and this core is going to be a better experience all around for absolutely everyone who plays it. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But this core is still in testing, and honestly it's probably going to get added to update all shortly, so I wanted to preview it out for you guys. And of course, if you want to start playing this now, if you head over to the MiSTer FPGA Discord under Test Builds channel, you will find this core right here. And it isn't just the auto patching and other features. A lot of the audio popping and clicking that we had in previous cores is completely gone now. Jet Force Gemini had a tendency to have some pops in the audio, and that seems to be 100% alleviated, when that is a really nice quality of life improvement. Honestly, this new test core feels like the most stable, most buttoned up Nintendo 64 you could possibly get, including using real hardware with a flash card and an HDMI port out the back. This really feels like the finished retail product that's being tested right here. Now additionally, some users of the new MiSTer Pi have been reporting that some games on Nintendo 64 were crashing based upon their RAM module and the MiSTer Pi board. So Robert went in and basically took a look at some of the RAM timings and when it would actually look for accessing data. This doesn't really change anything about the accuracy of the core, it just makes it look for something in a different window. And now that that's been done, pretty much everyone who's had that issue with the MiSTer Pi and running certain games on Nintendo 64 has been confirming 100% compatibility. So it's awesome that FPGA Zoom Spots went back in and took a look at that. Additionally, with the new MiSTer main, you're going to get all of that auto patching with the Nintendo 64 database file, so you no longer have to worry about adding any patches to any of your games. If they require a patch, the core will automatically take care of that for you when you launch the game. And that makes something like Jet Force Gemini just a plug and play, for lack of a better term, experience. You can play it in widescreen if you want, like we're doing here. The audio is going to be perfect. It's going to launch on any single MiSTer build out there. You're just going to be able to play this like putting the original cartridge into your Nintendo 64. And honestly, that is all that really matters. You guys want an experience that feels like real hardware, and this new test core is 100% delivering that to you. Now do be aware that it is still in test because the core developer likes to get feedback from testers on Discord to make sure that before he pushes anything out to update all, it's working for everybody. So I'm not sure when this is going to see update all. If you want to play it now, you're going to have to manually install it, but it is as simple as drag and drop. Additionally, a lot of the audio popping issues in Resident Evil 2 are now gone, and this is another game on the MiSTer Pis that was having some issues either launching or continuing to run. It had a tendency to freeze every once in a while, or actually failed to launch. Now that's totally fine. You can see we're just playing around with a little widescreen here as well. And big thanks to Andy D, the Video Game Esoterica West Coast correspondent, for capturing the footage for this. Normally I do not make videos on the weekends, but I dragged myself into my studio because I wanted to tell you guys all about the new fun Nintendo 64 stuff. And that is the great thing. This core was basically buttoned up and quote-unquote done in April, but Robert's been going back in, making fixes, improving things, and just giving you a better experience all around. And Resident Evil 2 is definitely one of them. Now again, you don't need to worry about any patches, you don't need to worry about any freezing or incompatibilities. You just start playing this game from start to finish like you would anything else. Do be aware that if you are using a capture card, you might lose sync now and then. It has nothing to do with the core and everything to do with it changing resolutions. That happens on pretty much every capture card out there, so if you are trying to capture footage from this game, it would do the same thing on a real Nintendo 64. You would just lose sync every once in a while. But that's what happened back in the day when they'd go from 240p to 480i. It would always struggle ever so slightly. But I'm giving you a sound sample right now as well, so you can hear the new improved sound quality, and soon I'll do a video on some new sound filter options as well that are being developed for the core and still in testing. But go ahead and listen and see if you hear anything you like or don't like, and I'll be back to show you a lot more improvements in the core, because there are a ton and they're awesome. Not a lot of music there, but a lot of underlying noise and sound effects. You can hear from start to finish. There's no pops, there's no cracks. It just sounds like real Nintendo 64 audio coming out of a real console, because in essence that is what it has ended up being. And I love when you get Leon in a stagger state here. The animations are awesome in all of the best ways. But Resident Evil 2 again has seen vast improvements. You won't have any issues on the Mr. Pies, Mr. FPGAs from Jurassic, or anything else. It's going to auto patch itself, and it's going to play better than it ever has before. Let's move on to another game that had some issues that is now 100% perfect as well, and that is Xenocrisis. Obviously this is not a game that came out in the retail life cycle of the Nintendo 64. This is a new game, and it's been ported to basically every retro system ever, and if you haven't played it yet, you 100% owe it to yourself to do so. And the best part is you can pick this up just as a ROM file for like $5 or $10 I believe, and play it on Mr. FPGA. And the Nintendo 64 version is a really fun way to play as well with the controller configuration. It's available for Neo Geo AES, MVS, Sega Genesis. There's so many different ways to play Xenocrisis. The only wrong way to play it in the first place is not to play it whatsoever, and I don't think this is a game that I actually ever covered on the Nintendo 64 testing, and if I did, it was very early in the life cycle. But again, it's another game that's seen improvements, and honestly, this newest test score feels like something that you would release if you were analog for the 3D console. It feels like that customer-ready retail experience, so you just sit down, you just start playing, and you just start having a fun time, and that really is the goal of all of these cores, to basically remove the veil between the technology and the end user, so it doesn't feel like you're playing an FPGA core, a piece of rewritten software that's basically becoming a Nintendo 64. You just feel like you're sitting down and enjoying playing a video game without ever thinking about how you're doing it in the first place, and that's exactly what this core is doing. I've been obviously making these preview videos the entire time, back when absolutely no retail games booted, to the point where we got one game running at like 4 frames per second. So I have seen absolutely every iteration of the core possible, and I will say right now, this newest test core that should be going to update all soon really is the absolute best one I've ever played. And it's not like every single core that's new has improvements. Sometimes there's regressions, but this one just seems to fix everything that could be fixed and provides absolutely no regressions as far as games are concerned. I'm going to Blues Brothers 2000 mostly for the joke, but I do remember this game had an issue in previous cores, and again it's 100% working as expected, and I'm never quite sure how a Blues Brothers 2000 game ever actually got developed. It is maybe one of the strangest games on the Nintendo 64. It's not a ton of fun, but it's amusing to talk about. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me, have you ever played Blues Brothers 2000 and what do you think about it? I'm trying to show you games that have improved in recent cores, and this is definitely one that is on the list. And I'm even going to give you a sound sample, because how do you not get Nintendo 64 Blues Brothers style music in a video? Go ahead and listen for 30 seconds. I'll be back to show you a few more games that have definitely gotten better. I mean, that's music, and it kind of makes you think of Blues Brothers, but also kind of doesn't. And that is the thing about talking about the improvements in this core. It's not just talking about the most popular games out there. A core needs to play absolutely every single thing that released in the retail library, and it needs to do it like it would on real hardware. And again, Blues Brothers 2000, I can't remember the exact issue it had. I believe it was a speed timing issue where the game would sometimes run twice the speed it was supposed to due to some sort of VSync issue. It is now 100% playing like you would expect it to. Does that mean you actually want to expect to enjoy playing it? That is totally up to you, but that's the point of these sort of core development videos. If you can take any single game from the library, sit down and play it like you would if you put the original cartridge into original hardware, that is definitely a plus. And Blues Brothers 2000 now works exactly like it would on real hardware, which is to say, it's a game, it exists, and you can play it if you want. Now moving on to games that other people would enjoy playing, moving back over to Star Wars Battle for Naboo, this is another game that's seen a lot of different changes and improvements over intervening cores, and now with the auto patcher, again, you're going to be able to play this on Mr. FPGA with no issues whatsoever. This is another game that had some audio popping issues, because it has such a good soundtrack as it's based on something like Star Wars, you definitely want to be able to have that music and all the sound effects sound exactly like they should, and again, that has been patched up here. And if there's been any issues on the Mr. Pi side of things, I don't believe this is one of the games that was reported, but information's been coming in basically every hour. You won't have an issue with that as well. And this is one of the last games to work with a patch, one of the last games to get improved, and again, a retail level experience. And I can't imagine what else could possibly be in the core at this point in time that Robert could take a look at and improve. You may still get a new updated turbo core sometime soon, and I'll definitely do a video when and if that happens. But for the most part, if you go over to MiSTer FPGA today, grab the core off test builds and start playing, you're really not going to have to do anything other than select your game and just start having fun. No patching, no worrying about what RAM variant you're using, no worrying about audio popping. You just sit down, play the game, make sure you save when you're done playing, and you can come back to it and start all over again, just like you would real hardware. And the benefit is, if you don't have a modded Nintendo 64 or a flash card, you have full HDMI out, you've got awesome analog out as well, you have all of the different games you could possibly want, you don't need to worry about memory cards. I will do a review on the core when it is finally buttoned up. I've been putting it off for a long time, but the initial review as far as this test core is concerned is it's better than real hardware. It's easier to use, it's more impressive, it has new features that even real hardware doesn't have, and it's just a smoother, better Nintendo 64 experience. And that's what we all want. Obviously this was considered the impossible core, so much so that it became a meme, and then we had one game by Christmas, and that ended up being every single game in the retail library by Christmas. Robert, or FPGA Zooms Past, has continued to impress every single person who's checked this thing out, and I know you guys have enjoyed watching all of these different testing videos, and don't worry, I still got a bunch of stuff coming up, stuff on Turbo Core, on the clean HDMI mode, so it's not like Nintendo 64 testing is going anywhere, but this new test core is so incredibly good I had to talk about it and get into my office on the weekend to do so. And that's the most fun part about these core updates, they just get everyone excited, and it's great that Robert went in and figured out how to make sure that the Mr. Pi was 100% compatible with the core, because honestly core developers really just target the Jurassic DE10 Nano because that's all that's been around up until about like 6 weeks ago. So as this new variant hardware comes in, it's great to see someone like Robert make sure that everyone can enjoy it exactly the same way. And if you want to play Batman, one of the worst beat 'em ups of the era, this now runs at full speed, again not too fast, not too slow, and it's had these same audio glitching issues fixed up like every other game on the platform has. So if you definitely want to start testing this today, you can do so. Pop over to MiSTer FPGA Discord and go to the test channels, you can grab it there. But I'm assuming after a couple more days of testing, this will probably get merged into MiSTer Main. And if you just run update all, you'll get the new core down. But trust me when I say this thing is an absolutely perfect experience now. You could ship this as a product, something like the Analog 3D, and everyone would be happy. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. But we're done. I'm going back to my weekend. Bye-bye.